go over what you've got handed in here. Oops, I don't want to do that. All right, so this is us. Refresh. There should be a couple things in here. One of the things that I thought about over the week was that if anyone was going to try this Steam, I would give it extra credit for it, or the rain, I would give you extra credit. But right now, let's just take a look at your smoke. Yeah, let's see how this plays just in the LMS. All right, so this is Joseph. It's looking pretty good here. I'm going to actually stop this playback and download it. Okay. So what do you think, Joseph?
When the thing is static, I think the holes work, but in motion, they kind of look weird. But then I tried removing all the holes and it just doesn't sit right either.
No, I think it looks okay. You know, if you're looking at anything that you need to adjust, I only see one little thing right here. Yeah, of course, I think the line work is still rough and you need to fix that up a bit. But this little outside curve right here, you see where my mouse is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's not moving. So everything else looks pretty good. You just got to get that one moving. Okay. Right? Everything else looks pretty good. So one thing that I would think about here is just a couple of things. First of all, remember that we were kind of doing, are you in Toon Boom?
Yes.
Okay, and so you know how to edit multiple frames?
No, haven't used Toon Boom since 2020, I think.
Hey, I thought I opened this. So there's a couple of suggestions for you. Let Harmony open here in the background. Let me bring up Smoke. I don't think I moved it. All right, so remember that we're doing this for our volcano project, right? Which you should be fully thinking about. And now we're going to be thinking about doing a whole bunch of things for it, for midterm, and getting scrambled up and moving things around, because right now the LMS wants us to do explosions and we kind of passed the tornado thing. We'll catch up here in a minute. But remember what I asked you all to think about was looking at your cinematic thirds. I mean, this is the thing. You're in film, you're in animation, you're in media. So you should know your cinematic thirds. And one thing that I kind of stressed here was thinking about what your overall sketch, what your thumbnail was going to look like for your volcano project. So
I have the layout in the file itself. I just didn't turn it on because it's full of markings and everything.
Okay, but you know, this means that your volcano is going to be like here, right? It's going to be center screen. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, I had it on a small island with the volcano in the center, and then there is like a lake in front of it to do water effects and stuff like that, and there are trees and there are plants and everything around it.
Okay, so I would just be careful because you're taking up your center focal point. Yeah, yeah, you have other spaces here, but one of the things that I had suggested was not, you don't have to make it go from left to right. You can make it go right to left, and that's fine. But if you were to put your volcano here, then this gives you a chance to really study what the smoke looks like. So I think that what you've got is okay. I think outside of this little thing, we're not moving. It's moving okay, but you haven't really explored a lot of shapes here. So I think that what you can do is, sorry, I lost the thing here, is reposition all drawings, and so that and adjust your layout so that you've got more smoke to look at. Just because it's an important piece for us. And I would just recommend that. So another thing that I would like you to think about here is it's moving too fast, right? How many drawings? You have 8 drawings?
I have 16. 8 drawings, yeah.
8 drawings. So I think
16
you
drawings.
need, and it's on 4s probably.
It's on 2s.
2s. So, look at your timing. I used to be able to adjust playback timing in QuickTime, but Apple has screwed that. I think it's moving too fast. Right now you've got like a smoke coming off of a brush fire that would be maybe 50 meters in front of us. And so I would highly suggest slowing it down, repositioning all drawings to the left, and adding a bit to the top so that it gives it more of a smoke coming out of a volcano look to it. The other thing that I would suggest is that you've got these little holes, which I think is fine, but give yourself a variety. So maybe make the hole on the top smaller and the hole on the bottom a little bigger, and I think it'll be better. So I think it's moving okay, except for this one little part right there. Okay, you got your notes?
Yep.
Got your notes. All right, Minjung. I'm sorry. Minjung. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to download this. All right, same thing. Minjung,
Yes.
same exact thing. Except for I think your smoke is looking really great. I think it's moving really well. I don't think there's anything sticking, but it's moving too fast.
Okay.
Definitely moving too fast. Check the loop between your last frame and your first frame. There is a little jump right there.
Okay.
But you haven't given yourself any room to explore the smoke itself. You've got a nice composition here. But remember that we were looking for maybe a water splash, lava explosions, lava and the explosion itself, maybe mud bubbles or something like that. So I would highly recommend redoing your layout. And are you in Toon Boom as well?
No, I'm used Procreate.
Procreate. Can you reposition all drawings in Procreate?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So maybe try to get this volcano so that it is more towards the left and more towards and lower.
Okay. Yeah.
So how many, you've only got 8 drawings?
Yes, a drawing.
8 drawings, okay. So Maybe try to get your volcano over here. Make it down a little bit. And then it'll give you more room to explore the actual animation of it. And then slow it down.
Okay.
Remember, I told all of you last week that the main idea here is that you're a mile, maybe 2, maybe even 5 miles away from the volcano itself. So it's just what you have here, it's just moving too fast. So one thing that you might want to consider is if you can reposition all drawings, maybe even make it real close to the far left, lower left focal point, and think about really expanding it so it takes up more of the screen. That's my suggestion. All right.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome. And Millicent's not here, but I'll record this for her. All right, so this to me looks like she's thinking about doing it as a standalone piece. All right, so Millicent, this upper smoke here is moving backwards. So you've got to fix that. You've got to track those little volumes coming out of the chimney and moving up. Again, I would highly recommend starting lower, more towards a lower focal point so you can actually see the smoke. In fact, I think you've got a bunch of different parts of the smoke that are moving backwards. And so I would highly recommend tracking your volumes or your plumes of smoke on the arc so that they're moving correctly. Before you go any further, you might have just 8 drawings, and it might be easier to redo it instead of trying to fix it. This is an animation test, so I don't really care about the house. I don't really care about the chimney. Spend more attention to how your animation is working. I appreciate the line style, and that I think you should try to do that, but you've got to get it moving the right way. Let me refresh the screen here. Oops. All right, so let me go back here. And I've got some fire to talk about, okay? All right, because this is looping, I'm going to download this as well. All right, this is Joseph. All right, I think you've got this in a pretty good shape here. You still have a little bit of an anomaly where you've got things that are looking like they're going backwards because you're not carrying through the push, the volume. So let me do it one more time for you. I'm trying to get Zoom to wake up here. There we go. All right, so and I'm going to let that play. So remember, you've got this shape right here, right? I'm approximating this shape. You can see it on that one particular frame. I think that what happens is that it pushes up a little bit and it turns into this little ember, this little bit right here. And I think that the best thing for you to do is not make it go from this bigger shape connected to the main fire to just make it be bigger right here. Let it come up. So let this shape come up and be really big so that it has that upwards look and momentum. And then let this become this kind of shape and in this position before it becomes this shape, before it becomes an ember. So let these pieces that are flying away from the fire be bigger. Same thing over here. I think that what your eye is seeing is that you've got this shape right here. And all of a sudden that shape becomes this little shape right here. And because of that, it looks like it's moving backwards and you don't want that. So make this shape bigger. Make it bigger so that the apparent movement is upwards. You know, this part in the middle is working okay. You do have a little bit of backwards momentum, backwards movement working in the middle, and that is okay. But it's like, I think that this part here would be okay moving backwards. But the thing is that this is moving backwards, that part's moving backwards. And yeah, I think you just need to adjust the outside pieces because this part's working here. And you could, if you wanted to, for this piece right here, make it quite a bit bigger. You could make it like sticky and make it fly away even a little bigger so that it has a real upwards push to it. And I think that will help. I think that kind of thing would improve the apparent motion of the fire. All right, you got your notes?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Javon, fire. All right, Javon, your fire is just wiggling around, man.
Yeah.
So go, let me do this thing. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think you, instead of trying to fix this, just redo it.
Okay.
I don't remember if I had seen this before.
I tried to separate it from the volcano just to do it by itself.
Right. But I think that it's just going to be easier for you to do a new one rather than try to repair it or fix it.
Okay.
So remember that, and I'll do this again. You're all invited to this board to see this, my effects board. And I don't think that I added anything this past week. I might have. Oh, I think I added this thing because I thought it looked kind of cool. But remember that what we are looking for the fire. And so take a note that there's like tons of different kinds of fire. Down here, you've got fire that has like rounded shapes on it, which is kind of weird, but it works sometimes. You know, this fire here, I don't know where it's from. I made the comment last week that I usually do not pin things that are oriented incorrectly. You know, and so, but I like the shape of those the little parts of the fire in there. It looks kind of cool. But this is what you're looking for. You're looking for that upward movement of the three. Remember that it's not just a flat plane, that the fire is a sphere. All these little circles are spheres. And they're moving upwards, and that they can move a little bit to the right and to the left. I pinned this one because I like those shapes in there. They're irregular. There's a lot of them. I like the colors. This one, I think, and remember too, that when I pin things on the board, that this is for you. You know, I don't share this with my story class or my character design class. This is strictly the 225 class. That you could do a big brush fire if you wanted. This would give you an idea of what that might look like. But I'm not convinced that this is a really great aesthetic. There's some really strange shapes in there. You know, this I thought was good just in terms of what you can do with your opacity and your blur and going from yellow to red. But I'm not convinced about all the shapes in there. Moving down just a little bit more. Trying to find that one fire, and you know, it was funny because I downloaded it from my class at Kenyatta. And I must have emptied my trash basket. That's okay. And remember that fire can be different colors. You know, this is a really wonderful fire right there.
Yeah.
And this, to me, it might be an illustration of a campfire, but there's some really great shapes in there that look kind of natural. So, you know, we're not going to put fire at the top of our volcano. I think that we should just put smoke up there.
Okay.
And remember that I'm guiding you all towards a volcano composition for midterm. So remember, you're looking at this and you're studying it and you're thinking about these things critically. Yeah, a fire can have just kind of a central shape to it, but it's going to be much better if you work on some sort of outside curve, inside curve, sharp, upside down, you know, because fire can be all kinds of different shapes. So let me keep going here. There's one that really, it's the John Hallis, Harold Whitaker fire. And it, you know, I've been teaching this class for 8 years or whatever. And I probably pinned it really early, and I should pin it a couple of different times so I don't have to keep digging for it. Let's find it. You know, this one's really cool here. If you were to just think about the stylistic thing here, and I open this in a different tab. And now I don't know where I went. Oh, it's here. You know, so you see how everything has this upward movement to it?
Yeah.
And there is a little left and right wiggle. There's also some like sprites in here.
Right.
There's some like dripping plasma. And then you've got the ember. So, you know, this one is really cool. He's using blue. It's a magic. I would totally give you all points for fire that looked like this. You know, the fire does not have to have that race car, California race car look to it. The decals that you put on the side of the car. And, you know, in fact, I think I was making that point. I don't like that. I think it's kind of has a really poor aesthetic. You know, this one is okay. I think they're showing you the frame by frame here, which would be okay. This one is okay. This one's really good, actually. You know, it's showing you the sketch, the movement, the vortexes. But I think it's just one still frame in this one right here. And then I've got an open space here on my board. Hold on a second. You can see that I've pinned that smoke thing a couple of times. All right, let's find the one that I'm talking about. Again, I think that this one is really great, but it's sideways, but it's good enough that you can maybe do the thing where you save this as an image. And it's coming in as a JPEG, so that's good. And then you go look at that JPEG. And it might be sideways. So, what are you supposed to do with it? You hit Command R on your board, your keyboard, and then you see what the fire actually looks like. So this is really great. So I think that if you were to look at the sequence and numbering sequence 45, 51, 57, you could see that he's got a moving hold here for wherever this fire is being attached to. So
Right.
that's just a repetitive thing of what I was talking about. I think we might have even mentioned this one last week, that I do encourage you to try some sort of style with the fire. But I think the blue one is like, this hits all the nodes. This hits all the points about style, because there are some straight lines in there. There's some geometry in there. I think it's working really, really well. It's moving a little slower, but that's okay. It's magic. This is the one that I was talking about. It's kind of embedded in this post right here. So I'll just open it in a different tab. And so I don't think that all of these are coming from the John Hallis, Harold Whitaker, but this is a good one just in terms of, hey, look, this is a candle flame being extinguished, or this shows us what that little breakaway part of the plume of the fire does when it becomes an ember, or this one about how it moves on a pathway. And this one is the John Hallis, Harold Whitaker one. This one, I think, really is the fire that we should be looking at just for the base rubric, because there are great shapes. It's moving fast and then slows down a little bit. The shapes diminish in size, that you follow the nodes, and then they become embers. This is just a candle flame flickering around, and this is a brush fire. So I think that if you were going to animate a brush fire, I take that back. He's got sequence of the fire right next to each other, and it's kind of hard to see it. But this one is the one that I like, the John Hallis, Harold Whitaker one. And I thought that I had pinned that one early in the board. Okay, so I remember talking about this part a while ago, because this is really nice too. You are certainly encouraged to try something experimental with the fire, and this is just great. There's a feeling of plasma in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to do your fire as a standalone piece. This would be really strange if you were going to put this in your volcano. It would be like, oh, wait, what do you, it's cool, but unless you have this very stylized smoke and stylized explosion coming out of the volcano and stylized lava, that it might be a very difficult thing to try to get all of the components of that volcano to match this kind of style, but it is really cool. All right, and so just moving down here a little bit more and to the end of the board. So I would encourage you to just look at especially this one right here, because that's from the John Hallis, Harold Whitaker book. And
Okay.
Javon, you are animation.
Yes.
So you should know this. So you should know this book. It's like one of the best books.
Recording in progress.
This is one of the best books for animation out there. Everything is standalone. Everything is its own special little project. It's really great. The Animator Survival Kit is the go-to book. You have these two books, this one and this
Yeah,
one.
I have that one.
Yeah, so but this is really great because it has a whole bunch of stuff in it that the Animator Survival Kit doesn't have. So, and this one, this I don't know where we are. We're in Amazon. I'm surprised that it's $34.
Yeah.
You can find this for a better price, I'll bet. But if you can, it's the best book to have.
Okay.
It has a lot of great stuff in there. All right, let me, oh, sorry, let me go back here and refresh. And remember, it's 8 drawings. Go back and look at that recording that I did of the fire and get it going.
Got it.
All right, thank you, Javon. All right,
Thank
so that was the refresh, so I don't see anything new in there. All right, hi, Rob.
Hey,
Dan, I need to see your camera. Dan, Mr. Dan. All right, Rob. Oh my God. I don't know what. Is this just a still frame?
no, it should be an MP4. It might still be processing.
Oh,
It's,
what
my
do you-
first,
so you know how sometimes art has, especially illustrations, have either like hidden meanings or metaphors or things that you didn't intend. So I see sheep running away from the volcano. Do you see this?
I saw popcorn, but yeah,
What did you want to do with these little shapes right here?
I don't know why I chose that as the standalone like display frame. They originate from the volcano outside and kind of
Uh-huh.
turn into that.
All right, let me.
I was trying to do the eruption first and then the smoke rather than the smoke just already going. So
Sure.
that's kind of where I'm at now. There's like the first version. I just put it up here. I'm still working
Yeah,
on it.
this is a strange upload. I don't know if this is going to play correctly. Oh, I see. All right, so I like what you've got. I like what you're doing. I have a suggestion though. So I like this. I think it's fine. But right here,
Mhm.
what I think would be more successful for you. Come on, Zoom, wake up. Is you've got a lot of upwards motion. And I think that this is important. These little inside curves here are important because you do have like vortexes. And there's a vortex here. I think that these are too big. So for these, what I would think is to minimize these a little bit
Mhm.
so that they're maybe only this big. And then the sequence would be is let them come upwards. Let these go up instead of down. Let them come up and dissipate instead of going down. I think it looks a little funky going downwards. So see if you can make that adjustment. Do you understand?
No, I understand it exactly.
Right.
'Cause even watching it, I kept having the feeling that it was like an underwater volcano. Like, how come it seems like it's underwater versus
Well,
like
right,
on the
because
surface?
probably because just of that part right there. All right, so let me refresh. I think it's looking good so far. Just make that adjustment. One thing that you might want to think about, Rob, Mr. Rob, is you've got the volcano in silhouette. And I don't mind that. I think you can certainly do that. You could put the lightning in as black lightning. Right? And I don't know if we're gonna do lightning today. I want to try to get the eruption. Lightning is really easy. But you're not gonna have a chance to do like the water splash or the bubble here. So you've got a lot of real estate in your composition to think about here. I suppose you could do black fire. You could keep it all in silhouette. It is up to you, but you know, think about it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't
think-
sold on the silhouette thing yet. I just filled it in for the.
I think
sake of the
that
drawing.
the idea of quote unquote thinking about it is really akin to your sketches. You know,
Yeah.
what did this look like? What were you thinking just with thumbnails first before you started doing this? And this empty space makes me think that you hadn't done this yet. So
Yeah, that room was saved for, I guess, some of the other stuff I'm going to try to add in there. But originally I wanted it black because I wanted the lava to like kind of pop, because I was going to have the lava in color. So as the lava kind of came down the mountain, it would give it form, and like you'd see where all the crevices and everything in it are.
So try to maybe revisit your thumbnails and,
Okay.
and see if you can make any kind of adjustments.
All right.
Adjustments are good. All right, so I don't see anything new right there. So let me jump over to our smoke. I remember that we should be well on with this.
Mhm.
That the idea of getting that smoke, I'm sorry, I have my loop turned off. And so this is just a review. Is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to get these volumes to move up and to the right, and these volumes on the bottom to move up and to the right. And what we had done, again, just as a review, was we set our main layout. We borrowed that drawing from the effects board on Pinterest that I invited you to. And then we timed it out so that we have 8 drawings, and I still have 8 drawings right here. But my 8 drawings right now are on 8, so it's moving. This is where we left off last week. It's moving okay, but it definitely needs to be in between because it's just too jumpy. And a reiteration of this example was that we discovered that this little inside curve became difficult to manage unless we knew that it was diminishing as an inside curve and becoming an outside curve. So it's still not quite perfect yet. I think the idea would be is to get this to plume a little more. I'm going to go backwards, keyframe, get this one to be more of a silhouette, go forwards in time. And I think that works a little better. Now we're here, maybe even augment these two just a little bit. And what we're doing right now is we're not animating key to key, we're animating straight ahead. Just fixing. So this is the thing I left you with last week. So I think that we need to, on this one, is to really get this shape animating into the downwards position more quickly. This is kind of where we left it off last week. All right, so I think that kind of fixes this inside curve right here. We could even start, we probably should start getting it to move right here. Yeah, I think that kind of solves that problem. All right, so does anyone have any questions about this one? Your smoke here. All right, so let me do this. I'm going to save this and put this away. I'm going to stop this from playing, save this, and put it away. All right, let me go find the volcano demonstration. I have a bunch of them that are similar. All right, so I think that I've shown you these examples where things were semi-successful, partially successful, very stylized, so you should all have these in your mind's eye. I think it's natural to put fire, smoke, explosions, lava, mud bubbles, water splashes, all in your volcano. And this looks like me. Let's just see what this one, let me just double check this. Oh, that was the wrong one. That's not what I wanted. Actually, now that we're here, we can talk about the tornado a little bit, because I think that, just like I said right here, Rob, Mr. Rob, I'm yelling at everybody. Why is that sideways? That you should be thinking about what your tornado looks like. So this is a good one. And I don't know if I've played this for you before, but here you've got the little ribbons of smoke moving around the tornado, which is twisting and going upwards. You can get an idea of what you want to do for your tornado right from the Pinterest board. There's a whole bunch of different ones on there, but you need to think about the center core moving around, the clouds that are moving up in the upper atmosphere, and then have clouds that are moving really close to the tornado, a little bit further away. You're going to need debris coming up from where the tornado hits the ground plane, and more than likely some lightning. So I'm just going to close that and go back here. So yeah, sorry, I opened the wrong one. Volcano. I thought it was on this drive. All right, we'll go back to this drive. All right. I don't know where my volcano is. Let's do this. Come back at 10 o'clock. Take a 7-minute break while I try to find my Toon Boom file. Give yourself a short break. Okay, everybody. I'm back. Come on back, everybody. Rob,
Yes, sir.
there we go. All right, so I found the file that I was looking for. This file actually loops, I think. Let me go ahead and play it for you. Yes, this file loops. Your file does not have to loop, but that's okay. And the reason for that is because it was more cinematic. But for this one, I think that what I was doing was just getting you all into the notion of, hey, you know, the smoke is looping, the fire's looping. So why not just make everything loop so that it is more game oriented? In further explaining this, I think that I would like to start by pulling in just one of those little reference images that I was looking for color and atmospheric perspective. And in this one, the little guy right here, you can barely see him because he's pixelated, comes out of the little cabin that he's living in and starts this fire. And this one is a GIF, and I believe that this one's on the board somewhere, on the Pinterest board too. Because the way this starts out is that there's a giant monster that comes into the background here. He's big and he's blue, and he steps in, and I don't think there's any sound or anything, but he comes in there, and then this little gnome comes out, he starts the fire, and then the monster goes away. Just this cool little thing, but I like the odd shapes, and I like the color. One thing that I would like to recommend maybe for you, Rob, Mr. Rob, is atmospheric perspective. Have you heard of atmospheric perspective?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to think about your volcano just being in silhouette, I think that each one of your layers can be in silhouette. So kind of think about what your thumbnail might look like if your volcano is in silhouette and you wanted to do each one of these things as like a flat plane. I think that that's totally okay. Let me check here. Rob, yeah, your animation. So kind of think about what you've got. Think about this, think about maybe adding atmospheric perspective. So not only everything is in silhouette, but it changes its density as it goes off into the distance. That's perfectly okay. And then because your animation, you should know Lotte Reiniger. She was a German film director, and her films were mostly done in silhouette. You know Lotte Reiniger?
I didn't recognize the name when you mentioned it, but now I do. I remember this.
Yeah, her most famous thing is the Tales of Ahmed, the Tales of Prince Ahmed, and it is an absolutely beautiful film. And her husband did the whole feature film themselves. She was born in 1889. I do not remember when. Oh, this says the Princes of Ahmed. It doesn't say when it was produced, but basically William Garrity and Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks went to visit her because this film was just so astonishing, and it was done with her own version of a multi-plane camera, which was just like pieces of wood and then pieces of glass, and she animated everything on its own layer with these pieces of glass. And so the historical footnotes are that Disney, Ub Iwerks, William Garrity stole the concept of the multi-plane camera from Lotte Reiniger, and they didn't give her credit for it. But take a look at this film, take a look at atmospheric perspective, and it might help you with your composition. All right, so back to this. Let's talk about each little part here. I have projectiles coming out of the volcano itself, and this is a real easy thing for you all to do. I'm just gonna go ahead and play this again. So you can see that the projectiles coming out of this volcano in the background here are what I had planned. This is a pretty complicated project here, but let me just get to one of these things. Okay. All right. So I think that what I had done is I'd brought in some key things for color here. I brought in this thing here for fire. This is what I want my fire to look like. I think I might have actually even done a separate little demo for my classes about how to get this fire to work correctly, how to get the water splash to work correctly, and what my thumbnail looked like over here at the very first drawing. You know, how do I want this laid out? I got my volcano, I got my smoke, I've got my fire, got my perspective. And so this is a real easy thing to do here. And so what I'm going to do is, and I think that you should all be thinking about this right now, is how do you want this to work? What does your layout look like? You have in your setup here for our class, we have, let me refresh this to see if I missed anything. All right. So in the outline, you can see that there's eruptions, water, lava, and mud that are in the week 8, week 9, week 10 modules, right? And bubbles, eruptions, water, lava. And what I was doing was pushing tornadoes and explosion, and we'll use gun blasts and lasers or whatever for your final project. And moving your tornado to like progress 2, because it's not that hard of a project. So we're going to be jumping ahead for these 4 modules right here with our project. So when you plan this out, oops, I'm in the wrong tool here. So when you're planning this out, I'm just going to use you can see that this is a pretty deep file here. I'm going to use just a blue color. All right, so what I'm going to talk about here just for a second is the explosions, the eruptions coming out of this volcano here. And so what you have is, I'm just going to do a little thumbnail here. You have this volcano and you have debris coming out of the volcano. And it can come out in any number of different ways. It can come out, it can go straight up and off the screen. It can come up and go left. It can come up and go right. It's up to you. You decide how you want your explosion to be for your volcano. All right, so you see that I've drawn a whole bunch of different trajectories here. Some debris can come out of the volcano and up into the camera. And it can do all of these. It's really, really quite up to you. So when you're doing this, this is part of this layout here. So what I'm doing it right next to this thumbnail because you could have the debris coming out of where your smoke is emanating from, but it's not going to be that interesting, or it might be difficult because you've got a lot going on with the smoke and the lava and the lightning in this area right here. And so it might make sense to put it on a separate little volcano in the distance. And again, you're welcome to borrow some aspects of this, but I don't want you copying this directly. So in this volcano here, the explosions, the eruption is happening right here. And what I would suggest to you is to study this just in terms of scale. Again, we're probably a good solid mile or 2 kilometers away from this volcano, and this one maybe 3 kilometers away from that one back there. So having said that, I think that the debris should look like molten rock. And when the molten rock comes out of this volcano on this trajectory, give it its little path. And so remember your concept of your bouncing ball. It should come out quickly, and as it reaches the top of its arc, it should slow down a little bit. And as soon as it reaches the vertical hold, then this is the place where it's moving the slowest, and then it speeds up again. So the principle of animation is that you ease into this key position, ease into it, and then so this is your upper, the highest that the little piece is going to go, and then it eases out of that position. So on each one of these pathways, just give yourself the position where those little debris, where the debris is going to be. This one's interesting. These one going up off the screen here can come out really fast. They can come out really fast and then start to slow down a little bit. And test this. You got the debris moving on these little arcs, and these two go off the screen. See what it looks like. Does it look like it's reading that it's 3 kilometers away? This one coming up over here might be a little slower. But remember that once it hits its vertical hold, that's where you're easing in, and then you ease out by accelerating it, especially if it's coming towards the camera. So I would highly recommend you doing your explosions like that for this volcano in the background. All right, do I have any questions about that? It's really just bouncing balls. You're just going all the way back to animation 1 and talking about bouncing balls. And because it's so far away, it's pretty forgiving. And so if we play this, you can see that I've got those guys moving fairly slowly. So I'm concentrating just right here for your eruptions. And as soon as they hit the ground, they go away. All right, do I have any questions about that? It's pretty easy. It's one of the easiest things you should be able to do. Bouncing ball. Ease into the top of the arc, ease out of it. All right, so let's talk about this lava here for just a moment. My lava is moving on 12s. So it's moving pretty slowly, and there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And so the way I did this lava right here is similar to the way I did our flag animation. So everything always kind of relates to each other. And so what I would suggest, and you can kind of just see it right here in the corner, is that you give yourself a pathway that the lava is going to come from the top of the volcano. And here I'm just using another little sketch. And this is what I would recommend. Use what we learned from our flag animation to draw a place where, and you can see here that I've got kind of like a little nook where the lava disappears. So it's coming out of the top of the volcano, and then it has like a little wave right here. And then it has another little wave, and then it disappears behind this another little rock, another little part of the volcano that we don't see. So this will allow you to think about this as your first node, this is your second node, and just like the flag waving, all you've got to do is think about getting the lava to progress down the side of the mountain. You can do this just as a standard keyframe, or you can do it straight ahead. Standard keyframe would be that you're going to say, okay, this is my frame number 1. This is frame number 1. This is frame number 1. and to divide it up into eights. That's always the default given. So when you're doing your arc of motion, it's just straight down the volcano. This is going to be your breakdown position. This is your, again, your breakdown position, and the timing is already set. So this is your breakdown position. And then your secondary breakdowns are here in green. And that gives you 4 drawings of the lava moving down the side of the volcano. And then you do your in-betweens. All right, so the breakdown looks like this. You just literally take this node and bring it up like this. You take this node and bring it up like this and get it to go down. Keep the bottom here the same. So this is not going to move right here. This bottom line is, you could just make it a moving hold. So on each one of the 8 drawings, just copy this bottom right here and call it a moving hold. And then just get your lava to come up, and to come up, and then just get the wave to work. So that's your breakdown position. And then your secondary breakdown positions are here. So go where the green is, right? And just get your lava to progress down the side of the volcano like it was a downwards flag. Does that make sense for everybody? All right, so lava moves slow. So plan your lava out on 8s, 8 drawings, and see if it's moving slow enough by taking it from 8s to 16 to 32 frames. You can see here that I've got some odd number. I've got like 88 frames in this loop. And I think that the cycling loop here for 88 frames is really strange because I was trying to get the factor to work for all the different loops. And I think that the reason for that was because one of these cycles in this project here was working on 11 frames. And it might have been, I forget which one it was. I forget which layer was moving on 11 frames. So that's why it came out to 88 frames. All right, so that's how you do your lava. It's just really simple. It's just a flag. And that's why I put the flag into this class, is because when we're talking about lava, that's how you do lava. Let's talk about this for just 1 second. If you wanted to take a volcano and you got the volcano just sitting there in your sketch and you were thinking, hey, I want to have the debris come out, right? And you want to have that to be first, so that's your principle. And then you wanted to have like some big explosion for number 2. And then that included some sort of smoke with it, right? And then all of a sudden you wanted to have your main smoke start and then move into what you would consider the looping smoke. And then all of a sudden you had the lava starting to come down the volcano and moving down further and moving down further and moving down further. You could actually, in fact, start creating a shot that has 20 seconds or 30 seconds in it. And this might be way too much to do. So the reason why I have things moving on cycles is so that they're handleable, they're doable little parts, and you can just animate it. So instead of animating this cool lava that comes out of the volcano, it looks like this, and it trickles down, because that's one way to do it. Just have the lava loop. Just like I did right here, have the lava loop. Do it like a downwards flag. It's just the easiest thing to do. And concentrate on whatever look you were going for with that volcano. Let's go back to the top. Concentrate on 1 or 2 of them that you just really like. and save those images to your desktop and just kind of go for it. Because right now it's a critical time of thinking about what your thumbnails look like. What does your composition look like? Where do you want all those little parts to be? And my computer's running out of memory right here. It's running out of RAM. You know, so now we're back in the volcano. Do you want something very illustrative? You know, all of these work. All of these are really cool. They're just, you know, thinking about how you're going to do it. All right, so having said that, do I have any questions about the debris or the lava? No. All right, so let's talk about this fire for just a second here. So I did this fire as a separate standalone demo. And let me make sure that I've got the right one. All right, so I've got fire all over the place here. I've got fire off in the distance. I've got fire on this burning tree stump right here. And what I had done, I'm trying to find where it is, and I can't find where it is. Let me turn it off and on. All right, so that one is just this one right here. So what I had done was just like we have finished with, doing an 8-frame cycle. So let me go back to my pencil mode. All right, so this one is just 8 frames. I'm gonna just toggle through this keyframe to keyframe. Up, up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got this to work just with a simple set of drawings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then as soon as I was happy with it, I painted it. Now in Toon Boom, a couple of things that you want to look at is that I had drawn my, just like I always did, I did the fire with, you know, fire 3 color. And this fire 3 color here has a gradient applied to it. And so in Toon Boom, I said, hey, I want this to be a gradient. So I was painting it with orange to yellow. And you can make as many of these separations as you can. One of the things you just have to be careful of in Toon Boom are these vectors. And so you can see that I'm going to just paint. And if I start painting, I'm painting the wrong thing here, that all of a sudden it starts filling in these little areas with the gradient that I just wanted. And so you've got to be careful, because if the vectors aren't completely closed, you're going to get these odd little shapes here. So right now I've just repainted this little area right here. And you can see that there's still open space. Now, with the direct select tool, you can edit the gradient texture by clicking on it, and you get this tool. Let me move away from it a little bit. And so you have this compression where you can move your gradient left or right, or this tool, which expands the whole thing or rotates it. And that's always a nice thing. This is, the middle one is repositioning the whole entire gradient. So again, this squishes it. This little handle here rotates it. And then this repositions it. And again, I think that you just want to make sure that you can get one clean click when you're painting, because now if I painted this little hole, I'm getting some stuff in the background too, and I don't want that. You want to be able to paint that whole little area. And you can see here that this one didn't take when I painted it originally. So that's the gradient tool in Toon Boom. So further explaining, you know, I got that fire to work. We've already talked about that. 8 different drawings. I'm going to Command Z out of these gradients. And let's just talk about copying and pasting, because I'm going to bring up these 2 areas right here. What I had done was to say, hey, you know what? I've got fire 3, fire 2, fire 4. I've got all kinds of different fires over here. And what I had done was taken these 8 frames, 1, 2, oh, hold on a second, my keyboard is screwing around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, that's again. So if I go frame 1 back to frame 1, that should be the same frame. But here on this fire level, I can't touch this one. I have to figure out what layer this is. So I'm going to go to fire 2. And this one's fire 2. So what I had done was taken these 8 frames, and I'll do like another little explanation of this. I'll just explain it. So I took these 8 frames. So I shift selected these 8 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4. I shift selected these and I right clicked in the timeline. And I said, copy the cells from the timeline. And then I went to my new layer, fire 2, and I went down here and I said, paste the cells into the timeline. But before I did anything here, I'm going to stop the share for a second. I took the fire, which was 8 frames like this, if you see my fingers, and I took these 4 frames and I copied them and I deleted them. And then I pasted them in the different position. So I started it in a different place. So let me show you, I'll draw a little sketch for you about how I did that. And this is the trick to getting things to work on apparently different layers. Or I'm sorry, apparently different timings. So this little sketch, so I have 8 frames right here in the fire. 5, 6, 7, 8. And in this fire 2 right here, I just copied and pasted it all the way down the timeline, and for however many frames I needed. But in my fire 4 layer down here, I did the original copy and paste. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And then what I had done was just taken these 4 frames right here, and I copied just these 4 frames, and then I deleted them. And then I took these 4 frames and slid them to the beginning. And so now it goes 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So essentially this fire number 1 starts here. So this is frame 1. And then in this timeline down here, it goes 5, it starts on frame 5, 6, 7, 8, and it ends on frame 4. So it starts on 5 and it ends on 4. And then as soon as this was set, I copy and pasted this down the timeline. And so these 2 fires, as they're playing, appear to be different fires. All right, so the next thing I did was on the fire 4 layer. Let me see if I'm in the right layer. You can see that I changed the timing. So one of the fires is actually on 2s as it should be, but this one's on 4s. And then let me find this fire. And then what I did is in my reposition of the fire, this one, I selected all of, so I took this layer right here and I shift selected everything within the layer, and I hit reposition all drawings. So I just went here and I said, reposition all drawings. I'm sorry, it's under the main select tool. Reposition all drawings. Now there's something to consider here, and that it didn't select everything here. And the reason that I know that is because I only see one frame selected. So if I'm going to do this again, I'm just in this main Fire 2 layer. I'm going to hit Command A, and I'm in the wrong layer. Hold on, I'm going to go Fire 2. I think that I could just do this on this stage by selecting all of them. And then I'm going to hit Command A again for select all. And it looks like I'm picking up some other artifacts. You just have to be careful what you're selecting. And then you hit reposition all drawings. And you should be able to then squish or translate or rotate or do anything you want with that fire to make it look different. So really, I only animated one fire. And I copy and pasted and repositioned the drawings and started it in the middle and ended it in the middle, just to give myself an apparent differentiation in fire. It's a volcano, there should be lots of fire, but I only animated one. All right, so just to reiterate, let's find this one, because I think this was a good example of just what to do with getting the fire working and painting the gradient. All right, so let me find this one. All right, so it looks like I'm the fire keys right here. So what I would like to do is, just because we're all still thinking and maybe fixing fire, is that 1, 2, 3, we have 8 different fire frames in this right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to limit my playback to frame 16. And let's just take a look at this fire right here. And you can see it's working pretty well. This is distracting over here, seeing that thing flashing. So let me move this over just a little bit. All right, so let's talk about this fire right here. It's just exactly what we had talked about before. You set your one keyframe, and then you get your nodes to move upwards. This one is pretty graphic, but I think that the thing that I had done with this particular fire is I wanted to make sure that there is an option for you all to look at the fire and make sure that you're giving the cleanup of the line just as clean of a line as you can, because in this demo, the painting of this frame actually worked really cleanly. I had taken a line from the fire, the outline of the fire that I was using, which is fire cleanup. You can see here, and I had taken my pencil and I had hold the shift key down so that it became a perfectly straight line. I made sure that when I was making my marks with a pencil, that they were just one clean line. And if you hit the K key on your keyboard, you can see your nodes, you can see your vectors. So K key on the keyboard turns those on and off for everything in that frame. And you can just tell by looking at the vectors that it's really clean. All right, so the progression was just like we had talked about in our other demo. This shape right here is moving up. So I'm just looking at this little teardrop. It's moving up, it's moving, changing, it's becoming, and so the loop on that is just right out of the textbook. It's just straight out of the textbook. And so that's why that's working. And then here, remember just to reiterate once again, is that because I was paying really close attention to what that cleanup line looked like when I painted it, with the gradient tool. So here I'm using this new 4 color here, which again has a gradient going from orange to yellow. And it's just a straight, simple gradient that when I hit the gradient editing tool, it allows me to do whatever I want with the reposition of the color. I can make it a little hotter. I can rotate it a little bit, but this is all one fill and that becomes important. When I painted this one, you can see that what I had done was move the position of it down so it looked more yellow. See that? I can make it look more yellow just by moving the coordinating position from it, because I didn't want it to be too orange up there. And I kept the rotation in that position. All right, so, and then again, I think that this fire demo right here is off the mark. And so let me just show you that I say, I'm happy with this fire. Sorry. I have a magic mouse on my keyboard, and my magic mouse and Toon Boom do not get along with each other at all. All right, so I'm going to just right click and I say copy the cells from the timeline. I go to this empty frame right here and I just hit right click and paste the cells into the timeline. But I want to caution you, all of you working in Toon Boom, when you do this, if you copy and paste cells from the timeline, just like I did, something happens in the background that you have to be aware of. So I'm just going to click on this particular frame. It doesn't matter which one, what it is, but I'm going to go to my library. And now, once I've done that, these copy and pasted frames now become symbols, so that everything I do to frame number 1, if I make a silly little mark right here on frame number 1, that now it belongs to frame number 1. It is a symbol, just like in Flash. So I'm going to go through here, frame number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and frame 1 again. There, it's back again. So if you copy and paste cells from the timeline back into the timeline in Toon Boom, they become symbols. And so just be aware of that. So they're right here. You can see it. They're all right there. You can actually play them in this little window. I forgot how to play them in the window, but they're right there. So be careful. You could get yourself into trouble thinking about that. All right. So is everyone okay with this? Those are working in Toon Boom. And I know that I've got people working in Procreate. So I'm going to stop that little bit right there and talk about these clouds in the background. So let me find my clouds. Well, now they've got to be right there. All right, let me do one down here then. I'm going to give myself a new layer. And I'm just going to do a demonstration for you and how to move things in Toon Boom. So I'm just going to move 4 here, add and close. All right, so where did it go? Where did it go? Where's my move 4? All right, here's my move 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a cloud. I'm going to put it down here. I'm on frame number 1. I'm going to draw a cloud. And this is something to consider for your whole project. And this one, the clouds that are moving in the background are actually a little bit inconsistent because they jump back into place. And I don't want to talk about how to get it moving perfectly, but right here, you've got one cloud and it's just right here. Let me paint it with something. I'm going to paint it with this sketch color just so you can see it a little bit. There's my cloud. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have this cloud hold out to frame 60. So I'm gonna hit F5 on my keyboard. And so right here, what I'm gonna do is I want this cloud to just move. And so in order to get this cloud to move, you have to select the first frame and you have to use this little tool right here, which is transform. Once you say transform, you're gonna say, okay, so it's already a keyframe right here. You're gonna go to the, oh, come on, Toon Boom, stop it. You're gonna go to the last frame right here, and I'm gonna grab it, but I'm gonna also hold the shift key to constrain the proportions, and I'm gonna move it just a little bit. And if you did it correctly, then you get this, hey, when I use this transformation tool with the running man tool selected, I get a keyframe on the very first frame that I started with, and I moved it on the last frame, and I get an in between. So this right here is an in between, and you can see I'm going to just change the playback to go from frame 1 to frame 60. And then if I hit play, you can see that the cloud is moving. All right, everyone okay with that? Those are using Toon Boom. All right, and then the other thing I could do is I can select a frame in the middle, and I can hit quick ease in and quick ease out on these two, or I can hit this one and I can say, hey, look, it's not selecting it. Hold on a second. I think I have to select the first frame and then hit this one, this little ease in and ease out tool. There we go. And now I can say, hey, I want this to ease into the movement, right? And I can say apply and go to the next keyframe. And I can say I'm going to ease out of the movement and say apply and close. And now I've got some weird motion happening on my cloud. It's starting slowly and speeds up. See that? It starts slowly, speeds up, and it slows down. So that's this tool in Toon Boom right here. All right, so and we got our smoke moving. You know, I think that there's a jump between the last frame and the first frame. And I think that that's because I just had an odd little demo part of this. All right, so let me pause for just a second. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody? Rob's saying no. He's saying, Rob is saying no, just shut up, Billy. That's what he's saying. All right. All right, so let's jump ahead here and talk about lightning for just a second. Lightning is really simple. Let's zoom in on here. And what I think I'd like to do is just explain lightning in a different task, a different Toon Boom animation window. But let's just cover, we've got these clouds moving. I showed you how to do that. Just copying and pasting fire. I'm looking at my timeline. We can do, we can talk about water and lightning in just today, just to really get you into your midterm. It might be pushing it to say, let's do a water splash, lightning, and a bubble all at the same, but we'll try. We'll try to do that in an hour. But right now, I think what I'd like you to do is take your main break. Take your main break. I'm going to pause this and come back exactly at 11, and I'll get through lightning and a water splash. Come back at 11, please. All right, I'm resuming my record. I'm going to continue sharing screen here. All right, so just to review, just to reiterate, I highly recommend all of you working on a volcano project that has multiple elements in it. It makes for a better portfolio piece. It makes for a good addition to the spring show. And remember that I do allow everyone to redo things. And I will give you as much partial credit for that as possible. A couple of you are missing Ryan, you're missing your pixie dust. You saw those in your notes. Dan, I thought your pixie dust needed to be redone. I could be wrong, but just look at your notes. Min Jung, your pixie dust could be redone. All right, and then I only have a grade on smoke for Joseph and for Rob. So everyone is still catching up with smoke. All right, so having said that, I'm looking at my notes right here. I've given you directions for how to do the lava. It's just a downwards facing flag, and your eruptions are right here. Just get the projectiles to move on the arcs correctly and time them out correctly. The moving example here is I decided to put my projectiles just on this volcano in the background because I thought it looked better. To review, I showed everyone this morning how to move objects on the stage in Toon Boom. So you just draw one and you move it. There's a little trick of getting them to move correctly and looping correctly. None of these clouds are moving correctly in the loop. I showed you how to do that with the move tool, which is this tool right here. And showing you how to use your ease in and ease out tool, which is right there. That's just a review. All right, so from the list here, I have, for this volcano, we still have lightning, which I think we'll do next week, and bubbles, which we will do next week. But right now, let's talk about this water splash. So I have it right here, but I think what I would like to do is put this file away. And I'm going to start a new file. Yeah, I'll go ahead and save this. Oh, I wanted to make a mention to you all. The list that I have here, I have Joseph, Dan, Rob, and Ryan using Toon Boom. And one thing that and this is a good time to remind you all, is that inside any Toon Boom folder, like for instance, right here, I have my pixie dust, right? And I've told you all specifically to not rename anything in here. You can put anything in this folder, but if you start moving things around this elements or environments or frames or jobs folder, you will have problems. And I promise you. But one of the things that I did not mention is that sometimes Toon Boom will not misbehave right away. Sometimes you can put something in there unwittingly or rename something or delete, or I don't know, and Toon Boom will work okay for weeks. And then all of a sudden you'll get a gnome. I like to call it a gnome because Toon Boom will just freak out on you, and all of a sudden a layer won't work, or a layer and a node won't work, and there's nothing you can do to fix it. And then 3 days later, your entire Toon Boom folder is just destroyed. So be very careful of your folders. Also, on that note, because you're all working from home, mostly, you don't have the problem of, and I haven't had a chance to reiterate this, of transferring that file. Because is anybody going to campus? Anybody? Nobody?
I'm on site right now.
You're on site, Millicent?
Yes.
So do not put your Toon Boom folder on a USB drive and then go to school and plug in that drive and work from the USB drive. Never, ever do this with Toon Boom because it's sending data back and forth. And if you try to work with a Toon Boom folder on your USB drive, you will automatically create gnomes. I promise you. You will create little glitches all over the place. And again, Toon Boom doesn't repair them, but it tries to remember. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, like right when finals are due, everything will go haywire and nothing will work in Toon Boom. So always take that folder and drag it to the desktop of the computer you're working on. And then rename it, rename that folder, and then work on it, and then save it, and then put that folder back on your USB drive. Toon Boom does not like working on external drives. I promise you, it hates it. Always try to work locally with Toon Boom. All right, everyone okay? All right. Sorry, I know I should have said that in week one, but not everyone is working in Toon Boom and very few of you are on ground. Okay, so let's do water. Rob, have you decided if you're going to use what I suggested for atmospheric perspective? Are you going to try to do something kind of graphic with this volcano?
Yeah, I think so. But I think what we're getting into is probably where I'll have the most trouble. I
With
kind of
water?
wanted the smoke to fill the air, and then I wanted it to kind of like rain, like acid rain, where you could see that through the background. But I feel like as soon as anything touches the ground, it'll kind of just go into the rest of the graphic. It'll just be like the same.
It's totally up to you. What I would suggest for you is to maybe do the water standalone.
Okay.
And so let me show you how to do water standalone. So I'm gonna have to go back to Toon Boom. I'm gonna create a new shot. So this is gonna be Billy B _ just water. And remember, this is a good habit to get into, is to name your folders. Everything that you ever name for any layer, folder, file, anything, never put a space in the file name. Never, ever, ever. For the thing I just showed you, BB_VOL demo _L1, that's a long file name for me. And just as a side note, I'm finishing up my work at San Francisco State to get my credential to teach public high school. And these people are completely out of control. They have file names that are 50, 60, 70 characters long. And you can't tell what the file name is until you open up your folder and like make it really wide and what version of it is. It's like, it's crazy. They're stupid, they're out of control. All right, I'm gonna make this 720. So it's 1280 by 720. And remember that this should be shot. We're not technically creating a scene. This should be a shot.
Hey, Billy.
Yeah.
Maybe we can, I mean, it's off topic, so maybe we can talk after class about it, but something you had just mentioned, I had some questions about that. I've been applying to jobs recently too for teaching, but obviously much smaller children. And I just had a couple questions about some of the stuff you're going through as far as credentials, because I was looking into them as well.
Well, no, it's not that long of a conversation. We could just do it right now.
I was looking at like private schools, because I noticed the private schools tend to like not really be, they're a little more lax as far as having your teaching credentials, having like all this, because I'm still in school now, so.
Right. So that's correct. If private schools are also under the umbrella of either a church of some kind, so you have to deal with that. I know that that's against my own principles, so I don't want to ever teach for a school that's related to a church, but that's up to you. And you're right. So all
Well, right now, I'll just take a job wherever they're going to give it to me.
right. So, and you can do that. You can certainly do that. Some of them make you sign an affidavit that you believe in the same faith that they are.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't want some, redneck, I don't know, some crazy faith guy coming into a Buddhist temple and having all these weird notions that they're teaching to their kids. So some of them make you sign these things. So just be aware of that.
I didn't think about that.
But yeah, that is a possible. Those jobs are out there. And I think one of the things that pushed me to get my credential, which is a pain in the ass, by the way, because you have to take your CBEST, you have to take a CSET. So those are two big tests that you have to take. And then you have to take all the classes that go into your credential. And then you have to take what's called an assessment. And basically that assessment is like taking a final for 30 days in a row.
Jesus.
And then it's really hard. You have to follow all the directions to a T. And you finally, after a year, you get your credential. At state, they have like the most robust curriculum for their credential. There are other ones, Brandman University. You can get your teaching credential from a lot of different places. And you can do it online. So a lot of them, like some of the teachers that work for the district, the student teachers, the interns actually have their master's degree. And so they will allow them to teach. They have their undergrad degree and they will allow them to teach as long as they're going to school to get their credential.
Okay.
So
I guess my main question is there any difference between going, say I'm a history teacher and I want to get my credentials, is it any different than, I just figured as an art teacher, I don't know, I felt like it would be kind of like, I don't want to say easier, but different. I just feel like if you're going to be a math teacher, I feel like there's a lot more you got to prove to teach kids math versus art.
All of it, history, math, science, art, we all go through the same kind of, all the same kind of process.
Okay.
And you get paid differently. So do you have your undergrad degree yet?
No, I'll have it at the end of this semester.
Okay,
Or
so
excuse me, at the end of the summer.
So at the end of summer, you will get your undergrad degree in animation.
Mhm.
And schools like that. So they will hire you, if they want to hire you for autumn, they will hire you as an intern.
Got
And
it.
you also
Okay.
get paid a little less, actually a lot less.
Okay, but as an
And then-
intern, you can work on your credentials,
And you
correct?
can work on your credential. There might be some provision in the thing that you sign that says, yes, I'm going to work on my credential. If you pick San Francisco State University, you are picking the most difficult one to do. And I didn't know that. You know, it was 1 year, but it's very robust. And at the same time of it being very difficult, the people at San Francisco State University actually wrote the documentation for the assessment. And because of that, they're very unwilling to share with me, anyone, all the details of how to do it correctly, because that would be giving us an unfair advantage. Other schools do their assessment just in like 2 weeks. But for us, we've been doing this for like 30 weeks now. It's terrifying and it's difficult, but there are other ways of doing it. Yeah, you all go through that same program. Some schools offer the credential and a master's degree at the same time. Like my daughter's doing hers at University of Redlands. And she's taking coursework that gets her credential and her master's degree, and she'll be done in May. So that was a 1-year program. She was on ground and online these days. So yeah, there's lots of options, but they will hire you on a provisional with a provisionary credential as long as you're getting it.
And the Academy of Art, the university doesn't require that? Like, why would you be getting it now to go to a different school? You know what I mean?
Because the Academy doesn't have enough classes for me to be full-time.
Okay.
Either in the animation or in the game department, because we're in the game department here.
Mhm.
And the Kenyatta College doesn't have enough classes to make me full-time. And so I have to find a job that gives me insurance.
Got it. Okay. So the Academy of
So-
Art doesn't require you to have credentials to teach here?
At the Academy of Art, you need a master's degree to teach.
Oh,
At
okay.
the Academy of Art, if you don't have your master's degree, then they want just a buttload of experience.
Got it.
So if you went to the Academy, or let's pick a different school. Let's say you went to Savannah College of Art and Design or Ringling.
Yeah.
And that you got a degree in animation and it was you did well. Your final film was in festivals. And then you worked at Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and then you moved to Warner Brothers and then Disney. And then, you moved and your resume starts going like this, and you have an Internet Movie Database size where you've worked on a feature film every year for 10 years, and you're a really good animator, then the Academy will hire you. And you're not going to get the same rate as someone who has their master's degree, but they will hire you just because of your experience, because we're a private school.
Okay, I was gonna say, 'cause that's interesting because you know all that stuff doesn't necessarily make you a good teacher. Because I've had plenty of teachers that have like a huge resume, but I didn't, I felt like the teaching side of it was kind of lacking a little bit. Versus I've had other teachers that have been super good teachers with not a very long resume.
Right. Yeah, that's the reality. But yes, if you
Sorry to get off track. I just
no, that's okay. If you wanted to teach in a private elementary, middle, or high school, they will hire you, and you'll just have to prove to them at some point that you're in the process of getting your credential. And I know that mine was a year-long program. Some teachers can go through their program in a year and a half because they're just separating their classes out. And also some of them take 3 years, and they only take one class at a time while they're teaching. So there are options out there, and lots of places need teachers, both for science, math, art, whatever. I think that one of the things that pushed me into getting my credential is that I was on either LinkedIn or Glassdoor, and I got to the bottom of one of the applications, and I realized that it was a private Catholic school and it was against my own principles, and I just deleted the application. I'm like, so that was my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you're welcome. So I thought can you see my screen? Did I share my screen with you?
Yeah, we can see it. Who drew that?
So this is Scotty Young.
I knew it.
And this just comes from his board today, that he said that he was commissioned to do Spider-Man in 2011. And he did all kinds of illustrations and inking and stuff for comic books for a long time. And I just think that his style is amazing. So I just thought I would share that with you because that just came in to my index.
He's my hands down #1 favorite inspiration. I've been reading all his books and comics for so long.
Yeah, crazy good. Absolutely crazy good. Someone's in the chat. Getting water, be right back. Oh, Millicent, okay. All right, so let's do water. I know that sounds weird out of context. So I'm gonna set this up. And water splashes do not loop. So we're just gonna do this. I'm gonna do the same thing as I always do. This should take about half an hour or so. So what I want is, I like some shapes of water here. Water coming out of a hose. We're still on our smoke and pixie dust area. This one. So when I was learning how to do water, I had the pleasure of working with Joe Gilland. And I'm going to move this out all the way to the right. And if anyone is interested, Joe Gilland was an effects animator for Disney, for lots of different places. He and I worked together. He was one of my supervisors for James and the Giant Peach. He's done all kinds of stuff, mostly special effects, special visual effects. He was one of my supervisors on James, and their story goes. And I'm down there somewhere. But he also wrote this book called Elemental Magic. And if you switch this to images, you will see that this is one of the most brilliant textbooks ever written. And I don't necessarily always bring it to our class here as a required textbook, because I know that many of you are taking this as an elective. But if you're interested in 2D special effects, this book is not only brilliant in terms of how to draw, but when he explains things about why he's doing this in the text, it just makes so much sense. It's written by an artist for artists. Like some textbooks are just like, oh, I don't want to read all these words. But this book in particular, it's like he explains everything about line quality and how to see things in nature. And okay, it's derived mostly for special effects, but it's absolutely brilliant. And he's got 2 or 3 versions out there. And he's also a really great guy. Right now, he's teaching at the Vancouver Film School. All right, so when we see this, this is what we want. This is right from the Joe Gillen book, although that was reinterpreted for a Japanese or Asian audience. And you can see that there's a sequence here and there. All this stuff is really good. And that's right from the board. Again, that's Joe Gillen, Elemental Magic. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple standalone water splash. And so what I'm going to do is just give myself a simple line in the background. I'm going to give myself just a simple background. I'm going to give myself a background color. And we're going to keep it blue for water. And I want it to be probably about right here. And because it's on the background layer, I can move it up. All right, so in this, in this drawing layer, I'm going to call this my layout layer. All right, and I'm going to give myself a layout color. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my main water splash, and I'm just going to figure out where I want it to come in and go to. On my layout, just sort of this first drawing here, I'm going to toggle back and I'm going to look at this main shape and I'm going to go, oh my God, look at all those tiny little parts. Look at all those beautiful little water droplets. We can simplify this a little bit. We don't have to draw it at this feature film level here, but there's something really interesting about, especially on the layout, about the water having a projectile that comes in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say in the layout, I want the water to be splashing in the middle. And so I want some kind of projectile to come in and hit the water about right here. So really quickly, I'm just going to lay in just a beginning of my grid. Just to give myself a sense of perspective. And remember, there's perspective in the sky. So something really quick like that. I'm going to give myself an alpha on the layout color. All right, so then this is the impact. This is where the projectile hits the water. So I'm going to give myself a little circle in perspective. I'm going to look at the form of the splash itself. So that's going to cause the water to come up to the left and to the right. All right, so there's going to be more water over here and a little bit less over here. And so that's the main form of the water. And I can look at it and go, I think I might be able to afford in this composition to just kind of make it a little bit more robust. And I'm going to command a couple of these lines because I want my sketch to be fairly clear. Oops, I don't want to do that. All right. So on top of this now, what you need is to look and see that it's a cone. It's not just a two-dimensional shape, it's a cone. So draw in this shape so that you can see the front of it and the back side of it just a little bit. So make sure that you're drawing a cone. All right, so that's your main form of the water splash. If you want to, you can start adding some of these little details, like there's a big form between these two shapes and another one between these two. Maybe this one is a little more open so you can see the center of it. And maybe there's a nice little form right there. And then there's interior forms over here. And I think that's just about all we need to start to get going here. All right, so sequence, background, F5, layout, F5. This is going to be a stone, add, and then we're going to do a rough layer, add, and close. All right, so now over here we need a stone color. And that's fine. We can make it a little more earthy, a little more orange. That's fine. And then we're going to do this again. We're going to get ourselves the rough color. And we're going to make the water rough more blue. Something like that. Okay, that's a good place to start. So for the stone, on the stone, we want to pause. We want to put the stone above the background, not underneath it. We want the stone to be above the background. We want to pause. Cinematically, we don't want anything to happen until the stone starts to come in. So 16 frames, we're going to give ourselves 2 beats. On frame 16, the stone is just very simply going to start coming in. We don't need to do any kind of tracking on it, but I'm going to turn my onion skin on. So we want it to be moving fairly quickly. You can copy and paste it if you want, it doesn't matter. Onion skin, open a little bit more. Coming in. Coming in. It's moving at a regular rate. It doesn't matter at this point. But what matters more than anything is that the audience just needs to see it. So give yourself a bunch of stones. And on this one, the stone actually hits the water. And I'm going to increase the exposure by 1. And let's just play this to see if that timing looks okay. All right, it's moving too slow. So let's put this on 1s. All right, now it's on 1s. All right, so that's fine. And again, I like doing it this way just because it shows you, hey, this is what I planned, but I changed the timing on all of it. So I think it's fine. I'm going to actually take this and delete it because I think I want to try something different. So I'm going to delete all these. I'm going to start on frame 16 again, and I'm going to draw the stone coming in on an arc. So here, I know I want it there. It's on 1s. So I'm going to bring it in on an arc. I'm going to make it go even a little faster. So now there's only 4, and the 5th one has the impact. Right? Let's see what that looks like. All right, I like that better. It's just the idea of bringing the stone in. All right, so now on the water, on the rough layer for the water, this is where, oh, come on, stop that. All right, so this is where the water splash starts. With our pencil tool, with the rough color, in our sequence, remember that we're going for this, but there are a bunch of sequences in here. So I'm going to open this in a new tab. And we're just going to look at this. This is, again, this is Joe Gillen, so that's great. It says Joe Gillen right there. So let's draw this first frame. Looks like we have just about enough time. Rough pencil, checking my tool properties, 5/5, 20%. Okay, so this is good. Nothing changed out of the box. Layout color. I want to diminish the alpha even just a little bit more. I just want a hint of it back there. Perfect. All right, so water, it's rough. The first thing that happens is that you've got a splash that comes out of the water. And I'm seeing that there's going to be a little bit more push to the left. So I'm going to draw two shapes on the left, one on the right, and then maybe one a little bit right here, one that comes towards us. And this is just the initial impact. I might even be able to sneak one in right there. Let's keep this on 2s. All right, so now on the next frame, we get kind of a shape like this. You know, I just started this pretty simple here, but we're going for this as our first shape. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue. Oh, sorry. We're going to continue this up, and it's going to bring a little bit more volume of water with it. Again, I'm just kind of looking at this conical shape. And I don't want that. I don't want to repeat the same kind of shape. So I'm going to give a simple shape here. And then this one is going to have more of a petal shape to it. Again, I can draw the cone and animate the cone if I really needed to. But what I am thinking about here is a conical shape. All these little shapes of water that I'm drawing here. By the way, that's a great movie, Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water. There's a cone built into this. All right, so now what I'm going to do is that now I'm going to really shoot for this kind of articulated shape. So now I'm going to bring this up. And I've done this before, and I want you to just try to do it this way, that you're working on the animation with as much of a clean line as possible, because it just makes cleanup that much simpler. So just kind of try to follow along with what I'm doing. Oh, you know what? I don't think that it should be that much this time. All right, and then the part that's in front of us. All right, and then this frame right here is it's a main keyframe. Now this comes up. This comes up, it's still rising. This comes up, we look at this little leading edge right here. And so now this is just a leading edge. And now for the first time, we see this little cone thing happening here. We'll go back and put the droplets in later. All right, so, and now keep this water rising. Let it really come out. Bring it up. Just think about the pressure of the water just rising up. You know, you're thinking water. That's one of the things that is the brilliant thing in that Joe Gillen book. It's like he teaches you how to think about the thing you're animating. So this is the cone. This rises up, and it's almost at its top. It's almost at its apex back there. And we're just getting the main form working. We're 5 drawings into it. Let's do one more rise. So up a little bit more, out a little bit more. And this one is just reaching its apex right there. Again, we'll come back to that one. This has reached its apex too, and it starts to reach the ground right now, or reach the ground plane right there. And this one is going to almost hit the water. Again, we're just doing the rough. This is the conical part. All right, and now this one is our main keyframe. So right here, it stops rising. And now it's going to break apart. So we can start putting holes in it. We can start thinking about the interior, exterior shapes. Now, one thing that you don't want to do in the next couple of frames is have all the water droplets hit the surface of the water at the same time. You don't want to do that. All right, so this can start breaking apart as well. And the right side can start breaking apart. Again, I'm just doing it rough so you get the idea of how fast you can do this, and you're getting the overall timing. So this is good that I've got the onion skin just for 3 drawings, but I want to really limit it to just the first 2 so that I don't have anything going backwards. All right, so there's a volume of water, it's coming up. There's a shape moving there. This is going to start hitting the surface of the water. This is going to start hitting the surface of the water. We're doing the main push of the volume first. This stuff here, it's going away from us now. So let the tails kind of disappear. This stuff is hitting, the cone is still there, but it's breaking apart a little bit. All right. All right. Let's increase this exposure by 1 frame and just take a look at what we've got. Let's take a look at it again. All right, I think that I like it. I'm not convinced. I think it's moving just a little slowly right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these guys and put them on 1s just for the first 4 frames. All right, let's look at it again. All right, that looks okay. All right, so that's interesting that we've got the stone coming in on 1s, the initial water splash for 4 frames on 1s, and then it becomes on 2s, which is fine. All right, so now continuing. At this point right here, I'm going to take my onion skin down to just 1 drawing before. All right, so, and remember this is rough, so we're going to go back over here in just a moment. It's at this point right here where these parts of the water start hitting the surface of the water. These in the back are now falling behind. So just draw like the little droopy parts. It'll be fine. And again, I don't think I want you having all the water hit the surface of the water at the same time. But let's just get these guys moving. Let's get this one moving. And this was our cone. And then right on this frame, so we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 drawings, 9 drawings in. Now we've got this plunk. And right here, what we're going to do for the next couple of drawings just by itself is animate this plunk. So what this is the water displaces itself with the stone. And so as the, oh, I don't want this on 1s, I want this on 2s. So as this stone displaces the water, it causes a secondary splash, and it comes up and it reaches its apex. And then goes back down again. So right here, it reaches its apex. Water can actually disappear. You don't have to keep account for every tiny little, every little bit, but it can disappear. So it's going to hold for just a moment, and it's going to turn into 3 little clumps, maybe something like that. And then it's going to start moving downwards. Again, it's just rough. Just get the timing in. Let's keep it at 2 shapes. I'm a little worried right here because I can see from the layout that it hit the water here and I'm a little off center from it, but not that much. I think it'll be okay. All right, and then this one is where it hits the, nope, this one will be where it hits the water. And I'm going to increase my background out to 90 something frames, F5 layout, F5 right here. It gives a secondary splash. So on this frame right here, we're going to see a second splash, not a big one, just a secondary splash. There's not as much volume of water. So just have this one be a secondary splash. I got 1 in the back, 1 on the left, 2 on the right. All right, let's save this. And play it. Okay, so think about what we're looking at. Stone, water, secondary splash, stone. And it's good because the stone hits to the left of where I drew it on the layout. And so it's good that the secondary splash is in the same place, but the timing is pretty good. Okay, so now let's do a couple of other things here in just the last 10 minutes. Right now, I'm getting the frame before and the frame afterwards. I'm gonna turn my onion skin off for just a moment. And let's just talk about embellishing this. So give yourself a couple of little water droplets and then go to the next keyframe with your G key and animate those. Well, you could turn your onion skin on, but it's better to do this just rotating it through. So just give yourself F and G. So, and remember that new ones can appear. So F, G, F, forward or backwards, forwards, forward, backwards, forwards, continuing forwards. Now you can afford to put in a whole bunch of little droplets and some interior forms that are like a different density of water. So think about each one of these frames as its own particular keyframe. Again, this is just rough. You want to make sure the shapes are viewable and that nothing's going backwards and that you've got detail, you've got movement, you've got little spines in here that you can draw on the cone. You've got space to put lots of different size water droplets, maybe a big one. You know, go back and look at what Joe had drawn. There's tons of them. They're beautiful. It's, oh my God. It also helps that Joe is like the nicest guy in the world. Sorry, second nicest guy in the world. All right, so I'm just making this look like water. Again, these little spines inside the cone really help sell it. Go backwards, water droplets. Backwards, water droplets. Backwards, water droplets. You know, you can put some water droplets on top, that's fine. You don't really need to keep track of every single one of them. But just make sure that each one of these frames looks awesome and that it looks like water. Next frame, same thing. Interior shapes. again, I just wanted to remind you that, you know, it's at one point or another, your hands have memory. And so kind of treat whatever you're doing and draw things in the same order. All right, so this frame here could use a little bit more of a volume here, maybe another break apart volume here, and then the water droplets. Right about now, the spine starts opening up and there are air holes there. Right, so backwards, forwards, 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 forwards, forwards. Lots of spray right here. Now you can add lots of different water droplets here. These little parts of the spine can actually continue to go up for a moment. And then we stop. So this one here needs our continuation. So let's turn our onion skin back on. And on this one, we want this water, this one, this one, this one. Do it fast. Think about the conical shape. Do it in passes, like I'm doing it. All right, so let's see what it looks like. I save this and what our main motion looks like right now. All right, so that looks okay. Let's look at it one more time. So that's the main part of it. Let's increase this by 1 frame. And now let's do a little bit of ripples. So wherever we can see it, we need to follow these through. We have the perspective grid, so make sure you do your ripples in perspective. Let's go backwards a few frames. If we start drawing the ripple here, we won't see it. Again, we're just doing the rough layer. So just start right. I'm going to turn my onion skin off. So just draw like the left and the right side of the ripple. And then maybe a little bit in front. They should lead into each other, but they don't have to connect. All right, so now go to the next frame, and ripples move at a consistent rate. They don't speed up or slow down. They can disappear, and they often do disappear. So keep your ripples moving at a constant rate, like whatever 1/8 of an inch. The ones in front are in perspective, so they're just going to move a little less of a distance, but the ones on the side will move a little more. And you will see these. So even though it's just 3 little shapes, 3 little forms, you will see them, especially right here. Especially right in here. All right, so they can start dissipating about right here. All right, so let's take a look at the little ripples. We should be able to see those. Okay, now let's do the ones that hit the ground, the surface, from these volumes of water. So go, go, go. So this one right here just created its own little ripple. So get this one and just do them one at a time. Go keyframe to keyframe, turn your onion skin on, and just do one at a time so you don't lose track. 2 drawings, 3 drawings, 4 drawings. Just do them one at a time so you don't lose track of it. Go backwards. Look at where that one was. Let's go backwards. So forwards. Now this one right here, this little droplet right here just created its own little ripple. Again, just do one at a time. One at a time. 3 or 4 drawings on 2s, and you've got it. All right, so now let's go backwards a couple frames. This volume right here is about to hit the water right here. So let this one start right here. And you can see that I'm only doing the left and right ones. Next drawing, these two cross over each other. They're going different ways. And they're dissipating. This is the last one for that one. All right, let's go back to this frame. This droplet of water, let's do that one. So this one has this ripple. 3 drawings, 4 drawings, 5 drawings, just the left one. Let's go back to this drawing. This one, this one. Where do we need, let's turn the onion skin off for just a moment. You know, where do we need more? You know, it's a lot of volume of water. So let's do this one right here on this frame. So right here, there's a bigger one. Next frame. And right about now, you can just kind of, your eyes can remember where they are. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so now let's do this one, where that secondary splash hits the water right here. Now we do another ripple. We can turn our onion skin back on. And let's do a bigger one for this one that we did for all the little ones. So next frame. Maybe one in the middle too, just a little one. Next frame. Select the frame. This is a brand new drawing. Next frame, brand new drawing. Next frame, brand new drawing. And this is just our first rough pass. One more. And it kind of dissipates right there. Hold this for 2 frames, save it, play it. Look at it again. All right, so these are the bones. These are the main bones of your water splash. That's just your typical 2D water splash. I would recommend looking at some sequences from Pinocchio. It was the first time where the Disney studio really had a chance to go crazy with water. When Monstro comes off out of the water and splashes back in, it was the most intense special effect ever in the history of animation at that point. And it was just beautiful. If you're looking at just Monstro coming out of the water and splashing back in, it is insane. It is beautiful. Pinocchio had tons of special effects in it. Yeah, Cinderella a couple of years later, that's great, pixie dust. But look at the special effects when the blue fairy turns Pinocchio into a living puppet and then into a little boy. The same thing with Jiminy Cricket. It's like, oh my God, there's so many special effects in Pinocchio. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time. They go when they're, oh my God, just watch the whole movie. Pinocchio is brilliant. All right, so this is a very traditional Joe Gillen style water effect. You are more than welcome to do it as a standalone piece, but remember that if you're going to do it as a standalone piece, especially if you're an animator, then really try to give a Joe Gillen look to it. let everyone in the world know that you've studied Joe Gillen's water. And it's part of this board here. And again, you can just search for Joe straight away. His water is incredible. You know, he's spent so much time on it. One of my teachers at the academy was one of his principal students, and we went back and forth. I mean, look at what he's doing here. Instead of the water just hitting, he's got like the like a plasma effect almost. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Again, if you have any troubles finding reference, just look at Joe Gilland for 2D special effects in water. All right, you can add this to your volcano. I think that's great. The example that I've given you this time, right now, there's only like 20 drawings in it or so. And it would make sense that if your volcano has a little lake or something, or a lake is good because a pond is almost too small, and an ocean would have too much going on with it. There'd be too many waves going back and forth. So if you wanted to put the water splash in your volcano, just give yourself a little pond. And look at the example that I've given you. Where are you going to put it? Remember that in your volcano, you should have at least smoke and lava and fire. And I'll show you how to do lightning next week. And then you should also be thinking about what your tornado is going to look like. The tornado will have lightning in it as well, and debris. And it's a quick one. The tornado just gets everything done as quickly as possible. And right now, even though we just did P1, we are getting ready for midterm. So make sure that whatever you're doing right now, it's going to be a good project for this volcano. Smoke, fire, lightning, lava, projectiles, at least all 5 of those for your volcano. And that's not due next week. The water is not due next week. I just want to make sure you're doing the right thing. A lot of you still have to catch up for smoke and fire and pixie dust as it is, right? So I believe those folders I put in there are open until the end of the semester. I will put a new folder in there today just for water. And then you can put, if you're going to include that in your volcano, then just put your water that has the volcano in it in that folder. Okay. And look, Millicent was getting water and now she's animating it. Yes. All right. All right. We will see you next week, everybody. I'll have the recording of this up shortly on YouTube.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.